a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
If you're streaming us live on Facebook, that's the music we play. It's highly divisive. In order to introduce this man into the studio. He's well known to all of you. He should be. He holds all the knowledge in his head. That's why that head of his is so impressive. David Whiting, well-known Melbourne lawyer. Good morning and welcome to ABC Radio. Welcome back again and welcome to Facebook.
Thank you very much, Virginia.
Look down the barrel of the camera and say hi.
Okay, I am high.
Hi,
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
He's all powdered up.
You can see why I'm on radio, not on television, can't you? Yep.
But he says that my shade of lipstick is not his shade, so he won't be wearing that today. Yep. How are you?
I'm well.
Number, if you do have any assistance that you need, 1300 222 774. Or to put that into English, if you are in need of assistance, 1300 222 774. Call us now. I've got a couple of lines free. Everyone else, you can wait patiently because we have some homework.
We did. We had Kevin from North Balwyn.
Yep.
Kevin occupies a property under a lease and then he allows other people to rent from him.
Yes.
So, and there's been a falling out between him and one of the occupants who's actually been there a while. And the question was, is it a residential tenancy? And the answer, well, my first question was, is it a rooming house? And if you have room in rooms that you let out for 4 or more people, so 2 doubles or a single and a double, it's a rooming house. And there's a whole new set of rules that apply.
Right. So it's not just a matter of he holds the lease and he can kick this guy out? I would have thought it'd be...
No.
Wow.
The whole of the residential tenancies regime is replicated.
Good.
And there are requirements for if you've got a 2-week bond, you've got to put the 2-week bond with the residential tenancy, the bond authority. It just goes on and on.
My eyes are glazing over. Okay, so
Yes.
give it to us in a nutshell. What can he do to get rid of this guy?
Well,
or would it be unfair to get rid of this guy?
Well, he needs to look at the notice provisions contained in the Residential Tenancy Act. I just want you to go is about 120 days. A departure for cause might be as low as 14. So it really depends on why do you want me to go. If you are being disruptive, then I would have thought it would be the shorter period. But you need if you won't go, you go and get an order for possession from VCAT.
This is
so monstrous.
Yes. Messier than I thought. So be careful before you enter into one of these agreements, right?
Well, either as the landlord or as the tenant, you actually the expectation of I'll call him the sub-landlord, in this case Kevin, is simply that I can get rid of them on 2 weeks' notice or a month's notice. No.
Okay.
But don't confuse that with a share house, where you've got multiple people occupying a property. If there's a falling out between people in a share house, the Residential Tenancies Act doesn't apply and you're on your own.
That's right. And we've all had a few of those over the years as poor students. Yep. And our next bit of homework?
And the next bit of homework was Brendan from Bentley, and Brendan moved into a house and 2 weeks later the roof collapsed. And
that is not Brendan's fault.
No, it's not Brendan's fault. It was, about a week and a half ago, lots of rain.
Yep.
Answer is landlord's problem. The landlord has a duty to maintain rental property in good repair. And Brendan said lots of pigeon poop in the box gutters, and that will have been the proximate cause for the
contributing
for the
factor. Therefore, does the landlord have, if anything's been destroyed or damaged or ruined in that collapse?
You have a claim for compensation against the landlord.
Against the landlord.
Run at VCAT, yes.
Okay. VCAT for that one. All right, good-o. Let's turn to today's problems, 1300 222 774. We'll kick off with Mark in Phillip Island. Mark, good morning. What's the issue?
Virginia, David, good morning.
Morning.
I separated from my wife a couple of years ago. We sold our house. She moved overseas. I put all our furniture in storage. I've since bought a new home, and I've taken all the furniture with me, and she refuses to get her stuff out of my house, sort of thing. Where do I stand on the ownership of these items? They're all personal items and furniture.
Mark, what do you want to do?
Well, I want it out of my house so I can move on,
do you want to keep it, or would you rather that she got it?
Well, I'd like her to have it. Like, they belong to her, but if she refuses to do anything about it, am I allowed to sell the stuff or give it away? Or?
This is an interesting question, Mark, that comes up lots because there's a provision in the Australian Consumer Law and Fair Trading Act that talks about goods that are left with you for storage and what you can do in the event that the people who are who've left them with you, so it could be in the case of a repairer or a storage space, there are really specific rules about what you can do and what you can't do, how you must advertise, what the sale process is.
Specific periods of time affecting certain things?
No, it's more about what efforts you need to do to make sure you've got the right price.
Okay.
But in Mark's situation, there's no bailment agreement. It's just, you know, I've left my car at your place. We didn't have a discussion, and I won't come and pick it up. What do you do about the car?
So what can Mark do?
What does Mark do? Mark, have a look at the consumer law. Sorry, do her parents want them?
I've spoken with her family and I've said organise a removalist truck. This has been going on for 12 months, David, and
Yes.
they refuse to do anything about it. And she refuses to give them the money to get the removalist truck. So,
Mark, I would look. She has an action against you for if you were to sell the goods, her action against you would be for the value of the goods, right? So I would look at the Australian Consumer Law and Fair Trading Act. Look at the processes there. It's a different set of rules for each item depending upon what they're worth. So a kitchen chair worth $50 would be
Really?
different from a leather lounge suite
He
worth
can't just send a
$5
letter saying this is my final and my 8th and final letter. If you don't come and get it, I'm putting it out the front.
Well, except if you put out the $8,000 lounge suite out the front, then there might be an action for damages for the value of the lounge suite. So you would look at I would probably look at selling most of them on a online site.
And then put the money to one side, Mark.
And then
in
when
case-
she asks for the money, here it is, less the cost of sale.
Can you be bothered doing that, Mark?
well, it might be my only option.
Are they valuable? Are they small items?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of substantial furniture, but, well, her things that she loves are 200 pairs of shoes and fancy dresses, really.
Send me your number. I'll take care of the shoes and the fancy dresses.
So, Mark, my question
They're
was going to be in
sorted.
what size? Yes. Mark, that's the process. Second-hand clothes don't have a high value.
That depends. Mark, I guess we'll have to leave it there. Look, good luck, but you'd be wise to not spend that money. Put it to one side in case someone's comes calling, huh?
Thank you for your help.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you,
on you.
Mark.
Good luck, Mark. The law is ridiculous, David Whiting. No, come on. Last week you told us that someone who was receiving letters for another person in a house where they'd lived before was able to tear that letter up with impunity, right? But someone who has been, and I would have thought that was there's an act covering, the postal service, a legal
Yes.
act covering the postal service and transmission of mail and correct treatment of mail. And yet, putting someone's crappy old broken chair out on the front lawn might expose them to illegal action. I don't understand.
I tell people constantly, Virginia, that my obligation is to explain it, not to justify it.
Or to understand it. And I mentioned before that my eyes were glazing over something. This is on text. Eyes are glazing over. As a lawyer, that's how I feel most days.
Okay.
Says one on text. You are very funny. I don't mean to be a correct description of my state of mind. Simon in North Balwyn, good morning.
Good morning. I've got a problem with a neighbour. He's got a tennis court, and between the two properties has got very high cyclone wire fence. He's grown a creeper up that thing. It cuts out my light, and it continuously needs trimming. And I got over the point of doing it, and I've asked him to remove the vine. It comes under the fence, over the fence, and through the fence.
Is it
what
a
can I
shared
do?
fence, Simon, or is it his fence?
I would say it's his fence, but it was when I bought the property, it was the only fence between the two properties.
Right, so your property boundary is probably 6 inches or a foot or so inside your side of the cyclone fence.
Yes.
Well, unless there's something in the planning permit for the pool, for the tennis court,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about the existence of the fence, and it's unlikely that the planning permit will prevent him growing things on it.
Okay.
So
Now,
your only argument is when it encroaches into your space.
Yeah, and what can I do about that?
You could get it, well, in short, you could cut it and give it back to him, but you can't encroach into his property for that purpose.
It didn't stop him from coming around to my property and just marching in one day and
No, you could
going,
invite him to do that. The logical thing would be say it's your tree, it's your fence, it's your creeper. Please come round and keep it tidy from my side. I don't want it encroaching.
Yeah, but I don't want him in there. Well, he a couple of times now, just come in unannounced and yeah.
Well, what if this time it's announced and managed? It's invited and done properly, but sorted.
Yeah, but it's 4 or 5 metres high off the ground, and it's just an eyesore. The way
I understand that, but if he was to grow a tree in his backyard, you would have no basis for objecting to it. I don't. Your view might disappear because somebody planted a tree. He has no right to enter your property without your invitation, but you can compel him to either do the work himself or arrange for it to be done.
Good luck with that. Alex has called, it's Tanya. Has called in from Gisborne. And I wonder if Tanya's call's even been prompted by Mark, who was speaking before about the left behind stuff of his ex-wife. Tanya, hi, what's happening?
Oh, hi. About 2.5 years ago, my parents allowed a friend to store 3 shipping containers on their property. For the last year, they've been asking him to move them because they want to sell their house. He's been saying, I don't have any money, I don't have anywhere to put them. We'd like to know what rights
let's
my
go
parents
back,
have.
Tanya, to the Australian Consumer Law and Fair Trading Act. There is an agreement between your parents and this friend for the storage of containers on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, are they 20-foot containers or 40-foot containers? They'll be the
20-foot containers.
Then there will be you'll be able to get an estimate of their value. Have they got things in them?
They have.
Yeah, then you're looking at the processes in the Australian Consumer Law and Fair Trading Act. And as we said to Mark, it will be a question of, it could well be you just offer for sale 3 shipping containers and contents.
Yeah.
Like that TV show where you just buy random keys to shipping containers.
Yes.
And then
But
if you win the
door
auction, you just
can
bust it
look
open.
first.
Yes.
Yes.
And would that be legally okay to just flog it off like that, David?
If you follow the processes in the Act, the answer would be yes. But my preference would be, if you know there's something inside, would be to open them and make the same decisions in relation to what's there. Because you may need to argue that you got the best price for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Do we need to write so many letters before we can move
There's
to that step?
actually, the Act contains a series of stepped processes that you follow.
Yeah.
So there's a notification and a time period and a process for auction.
Okay.
And
great.
I think if they're shipping containers, there's likely to be a requirement for a public auction.
Okay.
Good luck. Hope that goes well. What's in the shipping containers, Tanya? Do you know?
Personal effects.
Oh, okay.
From a marriage breakdown.
Right.
It just sounds like Mark, doesn't it?
We've got a couple of these this week. Something in the air. Sherry is in Thomastown. Hi, Sherry. How can we help you?
Hi, good morning. My question is, I had a airport car parking business, and because of the COVID, airport was shut for. Still, it's almost shut for the business, and because it's not working at all, we can't afford to pay the rent, right? And landlord took the property back because we couldn't pay the rent.
Yep.
So, is there any option we can do anything about it?
There will be a process. Did you apply for a reduction in rent due to your turnover drop?
Yeah, look, we went to the mediation as well, and nothing sorted out there, right?
Yep.
And then we requested landlord. Look, there's no income at all. There's a zero income. How can we pay even a 50% rent, and 50% rent comes to even $12,000 a month? And how are we gonna?
I understand. But there will be a process in the lease that says that in the event that you do not pay the rent, this is the process.
Look, that's the general lease, which always comes with the process of landlord can take the property back because if we don't pay the rent.
Yes. And the landlord, because if you think about it from the landlord's perspective, he might be able to find someone who can pay some rent.
Yeah, but then he kept whatever we paid the bond for last 6 months, and he kept everything.
And it's quite possible that if he finds another tenant, he may need to account to you for the deposit that he's got.
Right. There's no, such an option because of this COVID.
No, what COVID did was in 2 stages. It brought in a process by which persons who were tenants of commercial property could apply for rent reductions, and in the event that the parties couldn't agree, there was a process for going to VCAT to have that resolved. But that was it. It didn't go any further than that. It doesn't require a landlord to require you to remain in occupation until COVID ends without paying rent.
Shari, we might leave it there. Good luck, and we hope that's helpful. Kevin's calling from Upway. What's happening, Kevin?
Hi. Just after Christmas, a tree came down and knocked down the fence from the neighbour. And they were away on holiday, so they had someone come in 2 days later and temporarily fix the fence.
Yes.
But they left the tree behind. And I asked them about it, and they said, they'll probably remove it the next day, the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And since then I've wrote a letter. I've had no reply. And I'm just wondering, is it legal for me to put it over the fence, but I'd do more damage? So could I get that tree and take it round and put it on their front lawn?
Which one's going to do more damage, Kevin?
Putting it over the fence.
So if you just pushed it back, pushed it upright and pushed it over in the other way, it'd cause more damage?
It's about 7 metres long.
And you're entitled to move it back onto their property. I would try and do it in a way that created minimum damage to their property.
Yeah, so I could leave my property, take it round the corner and put it on their front lawn.
Kevin, do you want the tree? Do you want to cut it up and use it for firewood? Do you have a use for it?
No, it's a sort of a deciduous fruit tree, sort of.
You can. I'm just worried about trashing somebody's front lawn to prove a point.
And you've written one letter. Have you made another follow-up or another call?
Not as yet.
Was your letter to the contractor or to the neighbour?
To the neighbour.
I'd make another call and just see if you can, sort of last chance, can we not figure this out between us? No?
Yeah.
But if push comes to shove, yes, you can take it around and put it on their front lawn. Just try not to cause any damage.
Yeah, and exactly, because then you've
It's more
created a
bad
second...
blood between neighbours.
Exactly, and I think my feeling is always just to avoid whatever bad blood you possibly can have. I know it seems like, you have to bend over backwards sometimes with the 3 phone calls and the 7 letters, but if it avoids, ongoing years of bad blood and all the stomach churning tension that creates, isn't it worth it?
Oh, always.
Harder work.
Look, at the end of the day, there's a deal to be done, and it makes sense to make a deal now rather than 2 years the day before you get to court.
Absolutely. Teresa in Caulfield, good morning to you.
Oh, hello. Thank you for taking my call. I'll try and keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
I rented a room off a friend of mine who rented a house off the landlord. He didn't pay money. He worked for the landlord, doing maintenance at other properties. So money was never changed hands. But my friend went to jail,
mm-hmm.
and I was going to take over the lease. And I asked the landlord to change the locks. And he refused, said he wasn't going to send another cent on the place. And the place has been robbed numerous times. My neighbours...
Can I just jump in? You wanted the locks changed because the person who went to jail, you were scared of their associates and friends and their access to the house.
And a fair few people had lived there in the past. Yep. And
got it.
So I didn't pay rent. I pretty much refused to pay rent because it was unsafe.
Who would you pay the rent to, Teresa?
To the landlord. I knew the man.
Did you take over the lease?
Well, it was only done verbally.
Or did you just offer to take over the lease?
I offered to take over the lease.
Okay, so the answer would be you never took over the lease, and the lease that existed between you and the person who rented it from the landlord disappeared, so you had no rights of occupancy to the house.
Okay.
And unless you argue that there were... Are you arguing there was a lease in place, are you, Teresa?
Well, I'm not sure the terminology, but there was text messages between us that I would take over the lease on a month-to-month basis.
Yes.
He gave me his bank account details. He wanted to do an inspection, and that was fine. He came over, and I said, cool, while you do the inspection, can you please check the locks and make sure the place is safe and secure, which I knew that it wasn't.
Yes.
He blamed it on the police raid, that the doors were unsafe, but it wasn't because of that, because the police were let into the house.
Teresa, where are you trying to get to?
I'm trying to get to all of his belongings have been stolen. The neighbours have footage of it. I'm not sure what the law is in regards to when people go to jail. What happens to their belongings is it seems to be an open house. People can help themselves.
I must say, Teresa, I've always wondered the same question, and the answer is because every now and then you will say to a client, bring a toothbrush. And that's terrifying.
Yes.
But there is no law about who picks up the contents, no law at all. So there is nothing to say, you know, if somebody went to jail and they left the car parked at your place, the car just stays at your place, generally until some family member or friend comes and does something.
Okay.
So is your question, do you have a responsibility for those goods? The answer to that question is no.
All right. I think we'll leave that there. Some texts coming in this morning. Tanya and Mark, who are calling in both about goods left behind.
It's a consequence of a breakdown of marriage.
Yes.
Yep.
This on text. Tanya and Mark should get together and start a furniture business. It's true.
Very good.
They've both got a lot of items they could flog. And
but
James,
that would take you out of the queue for the dresses, would it?
Hey, look, I'm prepared to
Okay.
give that up if they can earn a decent income from it. James in North Fitzroy has texted, David Whiting, my weekly reminder to never get married.
Wow. Okay.
Too many disputes. Now, let's quickly and finally hear from Laurie in Mornington. Do you remember Laurie from last week? Laurie was our last call last week, an elderly gentleman, very concerned because he said his doctor...
And his wife were conspiring and wanted to put in his will that he wasn't going to drive.
That's right, to prevent him from driving his car. Laurie is back with us. Laurie, good morning. I'm glad you called in. Hello.
Oh, good morning, Virginia. Good morning, David.
What's happened?
What's happened is that I spoke to my wife and my doctor, and yes, they realise that they can't put a clause in my will which to say that I can't drive, because obviously my will doesn't take effect, as you rightly pointed out, until I die.
Yes, there's that.
That's
so
why
the
lots
whole
of people
matter
dislike me.
becomes irrelevant.
Yep.
And anyway, you asked me to call back and let you know how I got on, and as I said, I spoke to them and they realised that that's correct. So I thank you for your advice.
Are they letting you drive, Laurie? Has the doctor written to to Vic Road saying Laurie shouldn't keep his licence?
Yeah, and I've spoken to Vic Roads.
Yep.
And they've agreed that I should take another driving test.
Perfect.
And Laurie, when will that happen?
I haven't arranged it yet, but I will shortly.
Well, when are you going to arrange it, Laurie?
There's quite a delay, Laurie.
Soon, right?
There's quite a
Soon.
delay, and we'd like to know how you got on.
Yes.
Yes, I'll arrange it with Vic Roads in the next few days. This week
Terrific.
sometime.
Laurie, do that and please proceed safely and carefully with your driving in that test, and let us know how you get on with the result of that test, okay?
All right.
Good to hear from
Thanks,
you.
Virginia. Thanks, David.
Pleasure.
And I'll do that.
Good on you. Always a pleasure to hear from you, Laurie. Thanks so much. And great to hear from everyone. So many more calls than we could get to. David, great to have you here and to see you here on Facebook.
Fame, such as it is. Thank you.
Such as it is. David Whiting there. And great to have you on board as well, Facebook. Thank you so much for going live with us. We will soon as well. And Rafi, I'm sure, will soon too. So stay tuned to our updates.